Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Premier. Yesterday, after months of questions with no answers about how this government is going to meet federal requirements for greenhouse gas reductions, the Minister of Environment said, "A few weeks ago, I sent a letter to Ottawa to express my concerns with a federal carbon tax." Mr. Speaker, we are well into the throes of a climate crisis and at the 11th hour of a federal deadline. It's not enough to simply say that the government has concerns. He can either agree to the carbon tax or create another plan. Mr. Speaker, if the government has a plan to meet our mandated greenhouse gas emission reductions, I'd like to ask the Premier, where is it?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And there's been significant discussion in this chamber about the cost of living, about gasoline in particular. I'd like just to make sure the members of this House are aware that in Nova Scotia, we have some of the cheapest gasoline in Atlantic Canada. Newfoundland, $1.96 a litre. P.E.I, $1.87 a litre. New Brunswick, $1.86 a litre. Nova Scotia, $1.82. Some of the lowest in Canada. But, Mr. Speaker, we know that affordability is an issue. We know we need to keep the gas prices down, and we know that Nova Scotians cannot afford to add 14 cents a litre to the price of gasoline. So we're working with the federal government to protect Nova Scotians, to make sure that life is affordable for Nova Scotians. We'll work with the federal government on that, and I encourage the members opposite to get on board in supporting Nova Scotians and keeping life affordable for them.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party on her first supplementary.
We know that the climate is burning. We know that this planet will look different for our children than it does for us. We know that the cost of inaction is higher than the cost of action. Mr. Speaker, the minister said, we don't believe a federal carbon tax is appropriate. That might be true, but what is appropriate is addressing the climate crisis that is unfolding and ensuring that Nova Scotians can afford it. We saw the cost of political posturing and denial in Alberta, an expensive lawsuit and forced implementation of the federal plan. We need immediate action from this government to transform our energy system and reduce greenhouse gases. Nova Scotians need the good jobs that this will create and the lower bills that will result. Mr. Speaker, if the Premier agrees that climate change is real, open question, and a pressing problem, will he explain how he is going to meet this target?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, everyone knows climate change is real. That's not a question. That's a cheap political shot, Mr. Speaker. Climate change is real. But what is also real is the affordability crisis that Nova Scotians are facing. On one hand, that becomes the main theme for the opposition. But on the other hand, it becomes, let's make life more unaffordable for Nova Scotians. The carbon tax will put 14 cents a litre on Nova Scotians. We think that is unacceptable. I want to acknowledge some of the work that the prior government did under Premier McNeil's leadership. They went to the federal government and said, we've done a lot, we're doing a lot in Nova Scotia. We don't need the carbon tax to do more. That worked, but that's expiring. That has a timeline, Mr. Speaker. We are also going back to the federal government and saying, the carbon tax, 14 cents a litre on gasoline, won't help. But federal government, you can help us with offshore wind. You can help us with hydrogen. We can work together. I ask the members opposite to join us in working with the federal government to support Nova Scotians. We can have a
leader of the New Democratic Party. Your final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier wants to convince us that there are two options, affordability or tackling the climate crisis, but Nova Scotians know that this isn't true. We can solve the affordability crisis by tackling the climate crisis. It doesn't have to be a carbon tax. It can be our own solution. So far, we have heard nothing about what the plan is. We know that Nova Scotians believe this, and we know because we've been pushing for it and they've been pushing for it. We need a just transition. We need to help people retrofit their homes to lower their bills. Have we seen that? No. We need a universal service program so people can afford power. If you're concerned about the cost of energy and people's ability to pay, implement it today. We need to electrify our transportation systems, and we need, importantly, to stand up to Nova Scotia Power, which does not seem to be on the government agenda. Yes, it's going to be difficult and it's going to be complex. And the further down the road we go, the harder it will be. But writing a letter to Ottawa saying you don't want to do it is not leadership. I will ask the Premier one last time, when will he table a plan to meet our national greenhouse gas emissions goals?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, completely disagree with the premise that nothing is being done. There are a number of off-oil initiatives in this province. There are a number of initiatives that are happening in this province. What I would say to the member opposite is, on this side of the House, we're not okay with the price of gasoline going up 14 cents when the options are taking on major projects that can be transformational for our economy, for our environment, for our society over a number of years. Offshore wind, hydrogen. We have some of the best offshore wind speeds in the world. We have a Bay of Fundy. It's completely untapped. These are the things we want to do, Mr. Speaker, and I encourage the members opposite to stop with the rhetoric and get on board with the positivity, Mr. Speaker.